The galaxy laughed at Earth's weakness, dismissing it as irrelevant. But when one human ship emerges from the shadows, the entire galaxy learns a terrifying truth. Earth was never as vulnerable as they thought. The alien council sat in a high-rise chamber aboard their colossal warship, a gleaming symbol of their empire's might. Their laughter echoed through the room, rich with mockery and arrogance. The human planet, Earth, had become the butt of galactic jokes, a mere footnote in the histories of the most powerful races in the galaxy. To them, Earth was just another primitive world, too far from the center of power to ever matter. "We've waited long enough," Commander Rykor sneered, lounging in his seat, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest. "They've been hiding under the illusion of peace, but their technology is centuries behind ours. A few weeks of bombardment, and they'll be ours." The other council members exchanged knowing smirks. Earth, with its primitive defenses and lack of advanced technology, had no hope of standing up to the might of the fleet that now hovered above it. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's meager existence for centuries, and now it was time for the final act. The world would fall, just like every other insignificant planet they had conquered. "We'll wipe them out quickly," Rykor continued, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "Let's remind the galaxy who rules." The fleet's weapon systems began to charge. The destructive power that was about to rain down on Earth would be swift, overwhelming, and devastating. Rykor gave the order to begin the assault. As the weapons powered up, a few of the council members glanced toward the observation window, watching the swirling mass of the Earth below. It was a sight they had seen many times before. A weak planet, spinning silently in space, barely worthy of their attention. "Ready to fire," the weapons officer called, his voice crisp. "Fire," Rykor commanded. The first blast shot from the flagship's cannon, a blinding beam of destructive energy that tore through the void, aimed directly at Earth's largest cities. The beam moved with terrifying speed, slicing through space, its destructive force set to level everything in its path. But as it reached the upper atmosphere of Earth, something extraordinary happened. The beam wavered, its trajectory shifting abruptly as though something unseen had caught it. It bent, curving in a way that defied all known laws of physics. Then, in a flash, it disappeared into space, leaving only a faint trail of residual energy. Silence fell over the council room. Rykor stood up, his eyes narrowing. What was that? The weapons officer quickly analyzed the readings, but his voice trembled as he spoke. "Impossible! The beam! It vanished! We lost track of it." Rykor's mind raced. "How could this happen? We've scanned their defenses 100 times. They have nothing that could do this." One of the council members leaned forward, his voice laced with disbelief. "Could it be a human countermeasure, some kind of technology we missed?" Before Rykor could respond, another blinding flash of energy erupted, this time originating from Earth itself. The pulse shot directly into the alien fleet, hitting the first ship in their formation. The explosion shook the very core of the warship, and alarms blared across the bridge. "We're taking damage," the tactical officer shouted. "Shields are failing, power levels dropping." Rykor's eyes widened in shock. "Retaliation? Already? Impossible." The fleet's sensors scrambled to make sense of the energy signature. The blast that had come from Earth was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a force, something alive, something intelligent. The kind of energy they could barely detect, let alone comprehend. "The humans, they've been hiding something," Rykor murmured, panic creeping into his voice. "This is no primitive world. We've made a grave mistake." More pulses followed, each one stronger than the last, hitting alien ships with terrifying precision. The council members watched in stunned silence as their mighty fleet, once the terror of the galaxy, was torn apart by a force they could not even understand. "We've underestimated them," Rykor spat. We were too confident. Their technology, it's beyond anything we've seen. His hands shook as he tried to regain control of the fleet's defenses, but it was too late. Earth's ships, massive, powerful, and cloaked in darkness, had appeared from the shadows of the moon. They were not the weak, outdated vessels the aliens had expected. They were something else entirely. Earth had not only survived their first attack, it had responded with overwhelming force. "We need to pull back," one of the council members said, his voice trembling. "This is no longer a conquest. It's a fight for survival." But it was too late to retreat. From the shadows, Earth's ships emerged fully, surrounding the alien fleet. They were elegant, their designs a perfect blend of advanced technology and raw power. Each ship pulsed with an energy that radiated a kind of chilling finality. The Earth fleet was here, and it was not just ready for battle. It was ready for victory. As the alien fleet scrambled to regroup, the unthinkable happened. Their weapons failed completely. One by one, their ships were disabled, their systems fried by the same mysterious force that had crippled their weapons. The once proud alien empire, which had laughed at Earth's weakness, was now utterly powerless. Rykor's face paled as he watched the destruction unfold before him. He had been wrong. The galaxy had been wrong. Earth was not the laughingstock they had believed it to be. It had become the force that would shape the future of the galaxy, and the aliens were powerless to stop it. And as Earth's fleet closed, the final truth dawned on Rykor. They had not come to conquer Earth. They had come to test humanity, to see if the humans were truly as weak as they had assumed. But Earth had shown them something else, something far worse for the invaders. They thought it was mercy, Rykor whispered. It wasn't. As the alien fleet fell into chaos, Earth's ships hovered silently above, victorious. The galaxy, for the first time in eons, had found a new master, and that was before Earth even responded. The alien fleet, stunned by Earth's unexpected retaliation, scrambles to regroup. Commander Rykor, his confidence shattered, watches as Earth's technological superiority and tactical brilliance continue to overwhelm his forces. As the human fleet moves in for the kill, the aliens are faced with the stark reality of their failure. The once imposing alien fleet now hung in the void of space, broken and disoriented. The confident air that had filled their ships just moments before had vanished, replaced by an oppressive silence that settled over the command bridge. Commander Rykor stood frozen, eyes glued to the view screen as Earth's counterattack continued to devastate his fleet. The ships that had once been sleek and invincible now looked like mere toys in the hands of a child. Alien warships, massive in size and brimming with advanced weaponry, were disabled, their hulls shuddering under the unseen force of Earth's retaliation. The pulses that had struck them were not just energy blasts, they were designed to incapacitate, to dismantle, to cripple. "We've lost control," the communications officer muttered, barely able to keep his composure. "Our weapons are offline, shields are failing, systems are completely unresponsive." Rykor's jaw tightened. He had been so sure of the outcome. He had believed that Earth was an easy target, a primitive world ripe for the picking. But now, all his confidence, all his arrogance had been crushed in a matter of minutes. Earth had turned the tables with a force so overwhelming that it defied all logic. "They weren't supposed to fight back," Rykor said under his breath. "This was supposed to be easy." The alien fleet had attacked Earth, certain that their superior technology would annihilate anything the humans had in place to resist. What they didn't know was that Earth's silence had been its greatest weapon. The humans had waited, had observed, and now they were executing a plan that no one, least of all Rykor, had seen coming. "They're too powerful," one of the officers whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. "What are we supposed to do?" Rykor slammed his fist against the console, his frustration boiling over. "We fight. We don't surrender. Not yet. We'll find a way to counter their technology. We have to. But even as he said the words, he knew it was a lie. Their countermeasures were failing, their systems collapsing under the weight of Earth's advanced weaponry. The alien ships were not just being struck, they were being carefully disabled one by one with a precision that made Rykor's stomach turn. A distant rumble echoed through the bridge, and Rykor's grip tightened on the edge of the console as another massive pulse struck their flagship. This time, there was no question about it. The flagship was done for. The flagship is breaking apart, the tactical officer yelled, his face pale as the ship's systems flickered and died. We're losing structural integrity, Zethar had seen many battles in his life, had won countless victories, but nothing in his experience had ever prepared him for the sight unfolding before him now. Earth was not just defending itself, it was dismantling the alien fleet with ruthless efficiency. The once mighty alien ships, which had loomed like gods over countless civilizations, were now nothing more than targets. The humans hadn't just fought back. They had orchestrated a massacre, turning the alien invaders into helpless prey. Another pulse ripped through the fleet, striking the hull of one of the remaining alien ships. The ship's engines exploded, and its power core detonated in a brilliant flash of light. For a moment, the debris floated in space, suspended like a dying star before it fell into the abyss. Rykor's mind was reeling, his body frozen. The moment that had once seemed inevitable, the moment Earth would fall, had already passed. And now all he could do was watch as his forces crumbled. "We can't hold out much longer," the communications officer said, his voice trembling. "They've disabled every ship. The remaining fleet is losing power. There's no chance of recovery." Rykor turned slowly, his face pale as he looked out at the destruction around him. "What now?" he muttered. The question hung in the air like a weight. They had underestimated Earth. They had underestimated the humans' will to survive and their ability to turn the tables in a way the alien fleet could never have imagined. Earth had not just been waiting, they had been preparing, and now, as Rykor stood in the wreckage of his fleet, the reality settled in. Earth wasn't just defending its home, it had destroyed everything the alien empire had ever built, and it had done so with a power, a force that had caught them completely off guard. "We've failed," Rykor whispered, his voice barely audible. "We've been outplayed." A deep, oppressive silence settled over the bridge, broken only by the faint hum of dying systems. The alien fleet was no longer a threat, it was a lesson. Earth had not only fought back with overwhelming force, but with a cunning that the invaders had never considered. The humans had outsmarted them, outplayed them, and now they had them trapped. "Commander," the officer said cautiously, his voice a whisper in the thick silence. "We've received a transmission from Earth." Rykor didn't need to ask. He knew what it would say. The humans had already won. The message would be simple. "Tell them," Rykor said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Tell them we surrender." He turned back to the view screen, his eyes filled with the weight of his failure. The alien empire had crumbled. Earth had risen. "Tell them we surrender," he repeated. The officer nodded and relayed the message, but Rykor barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the massive ships of Earth, still circling, still waiting. The Earth fleet had not just won, they had taken everything. They had taken their pride, their weapons, and their belief in their own superiority, and as the last, alien ships drifted aimlessly in space. One thing became painfully clear to Rykor. Earth had never been the world they thought it was. And now they would pay the price for their underestimation. The galaxy would never laugh at Earth again. The alien fleet was barely recognizable now, a scattered remnant of its former self, adrift in the cold void of space. The once imposing warships, designed to instill fear across the galaxy, had become little more than floating debris, crippled and on the verge of collapse. Earth's retaliatory strike had been swift, and now the alien forces were being annihilated at a pace that defied comprehension. The battle that had seemed so inevitable just hours ago had turned into a one-sided slaughter. Commander Rykor stood at the command console, his fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles were white. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his eyes darted back and forth across the flickering screens. His once proud fleet, now a collection of wreckage and disabled ships, was being systematically dismantled by Earth's advanced forces. Every alien warship that had once gleamed with deadly promise was now a crippled husk, the pride of an empire reduced to nothing. How did we miss this? Zethar, one of the senior officers, whispered in disbelief. How were they capable of this? They were supposed to be weak, Rykor couldn't answer. He didn't have an answer. His mind was too clouded with the crushing weight of failure. The arrogance, the overconfidence, they had all led them here. They had thought they could conquer Earth easily. They had thought humanity's primitive technology would be no match for their superior forces. But now, that very arrogance was their undoing. The hum of the failing systems in the flagship echoed through the bridge as the ship shuddered violently. Another pulse from Earth's fleet slammed into them, sending sparks flying from the control panels. The lights flickered, and for a moment, Rykor thought the ship might tear apart completely. "We can't take much more of this," the tactical officer said, his voice tight with fear. "Shields are at 10%. We've lost control of the engines. The fleet is falling apart." Rykor's chest tightened as he looked at the viewport. Earth's ships, gleaming with power, circled around them. Like predators closing in on their prey, they had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The humans had not only defended their world, they had systematically broken apart the alien fleet with a precision that sent a chill down Rykor's spine. "They're not attacking like we would," Rykor muttered, his voice barely audible. "They're not throwing everything at us all at once. They're dismantling us, piece by piece." Zethar, who had been staring at the same screens, turned toward Rykor, his face pale. "They've made it a game of attrition. They've cut off our escape routes. We have nowhere to run." The alien fleet had no contingency plan for this. They had been the conquerors, the ones who dictated the terms of battle. But Earth had flipped the script. Earth had waited. They had allowed the aliens to come, allowed them to make the first move, and now they were paying for it. What Rykor had once seen as a quick conquest had turned into a prolonged nightmare, and the realization that they were now the prey, not the predators, was overwhelming. "They've turned our own strength against us," Rykor said, his voice trembling. "Their ships are so much simpler than ours, but they don't need fancy weapons or overwhelming firepower. They just use what they have to cripple us." The Earth fleet had shown them what true power was, not in overwhelming numbers or superior technology, but in the ability to control the battlefield with calculated precision. They didn't need to destroy everything in their path at once. They simply needed to disable their enemy and leave them helpless, watching as their own strength turned into weakness. "They thought it would be over in hours," Zethar said bitterly, staring at the crumbling remnants of the alien fleet. "We didn't even stand a chance." Rykor clenched his teeth. "Get the engines back online," he barked. "We can't stay here and die like this." But even as he gave the command, he knew it was futile. The alien fleet was already too far gone. Earth's ships moved in with ruthless precision, taking out the last of the alien warships with calculated strikes. The once proud armada was collapsing into pieces, falling to the mercy of humanity's unseen hand. As the flagship's remaining crew scrambled to maintain control, the communications officer turned to Rykor, his face pale with fear. "Commander, we've received another transmission from Earth. They want to speak to you." Rykor's stomach churned. The last thing he wanted was to hear the humans gloat, to rub his defeat in his face. But he had no choice. His pride had been shattered, his fleet destroyed, All that was left now was to face Earth's terms. "Put it through," he said, his voice low. A calm, almost emotionless voice came through the comm system. "Commander Rykor, this is Earth's High Command. Your fleet has been destroyed. You have one chance to surrender. Any further resistance will be met with complete annihilation." The words hit Rykor like a blow to the chest. Earth wasn't just offering mercy. They were offering him a chance to save what little was left of the alien empire. It was a rare mercy, a mercy that came from the realization that Earth had already won. "Your fleet is shattered," the voice continued. "We are prepared to offer you and your crew safe passage if you comply with our terms. Surrender now, and you may leave our space unharmed. Continue to resist, and we will ensure that not one of you survives." Rykor's fists clenched. There was no victory left to claim. His fleet had been destroyed, and the humans stood poised to finish what they had started. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him, but he knew there was no other choice. "We surrender," he said, his voice cold. It was the hardest thing he had ever said, but the only thing he could say. There was no fight left in him, no hope left in the alien fleet. Earth had won, and there was nothing they could do to change it. The transmission ended, and silence fell over the bridge. The alien fleet was done for. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's weakness, and now Earth stood victorious, not through brute force, but through patience, precision, and a brutal understanding of the nature of power. And that was before Earth even responded. The once proud alien fleet, now reduced to smoldering wreckage, hung silently in space, its ships barely recognizable after Earth's relentless assault. Commander Rykor stood at the shattered bridge of the flagship, staring out at the remnants of his fleet. The humiliation was beyond measure. His forces had been crushed, his empire brought to its knees by a world he had once considered insignificant. The crew was silent, their faces pale and grim. They had been part of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and now they were surrendering to the very species they had once laughed at. They thought it was mercy, Rykor whispered to himself, the weight of his defeat sinking in. It wasn't. The humans hadn't needed to destroy them in one blow. They had dismantled the fleet, slowly, methodically, until the once mighty alien forces were nothing more than a crippled shadow of their former selves. It wasn't just Earth's power that had shattered them. It was their ability to outthink and outmaneuver their invaders. A transmission came through, Earth's final word on the matter. It was brief, devoid of triumph or celebration. Just a cold, decisive message. Your surrender is accepted. You will leave our space immediately, and any further incursions will be met with complete destruction. Consider this your only warning. The transmission ended, and Rykor's hand fell to his side. The alien empire had been crushed not by force alone, but by Earth's understanding of the galaxy's true power dynamics. Earth had shown them that might wasn't just in weapons. It was in strategy, patience, and knowing when to strike. The silence that followed felt heavier than any explosion. The alien fleet was no more, and in the cold void of space, Earth stood unchallenged as the new force to be reckoned with. Rykor turned to his officers, his voice a hollow whisper. "It's over. We've lost," as the remnants of the alien fleet limped away. Earth's ships remained poised, watching their every move. The galaxy had laughed at Earth. It wasn't laughing anymore.